Hello, I'm Gerald Rogers.
And this is Mayah Rose. And today we're going to talk about key code number 4, and that is unconditional love in relationships.
Unconditional love is one of the big ones. It's one of the biggest principles within the legendary code and is the foundation for connection, for community, and also personal expression, being able to show up as all of you. But unconditional love is something that we're not trained on, we're not taught. Very few people grow up in an environment where unconditional love is the standard. For most of us, myself included, we grew up in a situation where I felt like love was based on something I needed to earn. I needed to follow these checklists, I needed to have good grades and a clean room, and the more I did the right things, the more love was poured out on me. But if I did the bad things, the wrong things, then all of a sudden I was not worthy. I wasn't worthy of that love. I wasn't worthy of that connection. And so I was taught from a very young age that in order for me to be worthy of love, I had to do all of the right things in all the right ways. And you can see how when you grow up in that situation, it would feed into your relationships where there'd be a lot of expectations and rules and a feeling of not ever measuring up.
Yeah, the problem is when we grow up feeling like we have to earn love, then we often bring that into our partnership with our soulmate or with the person we're trying to create a relationship with, which is either we are placing expectations on them, and if they don't meet those expectations, we withdraw our love. We don't talk to them, or we aren't as friendly or nice to them. We give them the cold shoulder. Maybe we argue or are angry with them. Or we end up feeling like if we don't do things in a certain way, that we aren't going to be loved by our partner. And what ends up happening in that situation is we end up creating what we call the perfection syndrome. And this is where you feel like you have to wear a mask all the time.
So one of the things that I find to be true in relationships is this. We can only receive love from our partner to the degree that we love ourselves. I'm going to say that again. We can only receive love from our partner to the degree that we love ourselves. It's like we have like a little love bucket, which is our capacity to experience love.
And if there are things we don't love about ourselves or things that we don't accept about ourselves, then oftentimes we want to hide those, or we feel like we're hiding something from our partner. Like, I can't let them see these certain parts of me, because if they really knew who I was, then they wouldn't love me. Love would be taken away or withdrawn. And so what ends up happening, and I know this happened to me when I was in my first marriage, and I ended up taking on the story that I needed to look a certain way, I needed to behave a certain way, I needed to act a certain way. There were even things in my past which before I got married, I was told by my parents or by people that I really loved, don't share this with your partner because they may not accept this about you, or they may not love it. And so I ended up spending a large majority of that marriage hiding the way that I was feeling, the things that I did, and who I was, because I was afraid that my spouse wasn't going to love me. Well, the problem with that is that I felt like he didn't really know me. And so I didn't really feel that love. I wasn't able to receive it because I didn't accept and love those things about myself.
And notice that when we have these parts of us we feel like we can't safely share with our partner, what happens is it limits the intimacy that we can experience. It limits that ability to really unveil and let them into our hearts. And instead of that, we have these walls or these parts of us that we block off because we're afraid, or they feel too shameful, or they feel wrong. And what's interesting about this is the gateway to unconditional love within partnership is always developing that unconditional love for yourself. But this is sometimes a challenging journey. And I know for me, when I was in a previous relationship, I felt like I was always wearing a mask. I always wanted to be seen as the good boy, the guy that had it all figured out, that had all the answers. I never wanted to acknowledge that I had problems or challenges, and I couldn't acknowledge that I was struggling with an addiction. I couldn't acknowledge that I was having problems in my business. I couldn't acknowledge that I had these deep insecurities in terms of who I was, because I was afraid that if I shared these insecurities or these internal problems, then I would get rejected and, I would have that love withdrawn from me. But what I didn't realize at the time, that it was just the fact that I didn't accept those things within myself. And in some ways, when that relationship ended, it was one of the greatest gifts in my life, because it forced me for the first time to really, really look deep inside and ask myself, what are these parts of me that I have been rejecting? And I found this book. If you want a great book that was really instrumental for me in finding a path to unconditional love, it's a book called The Dark Side of the Light Chasers by Debbie Ford. And Debbie Ford, she was like really well known for her shadow work and the work of like really going and finding the most unlovable parts of you and bringing them in and welcoming them in with light. And I think one of the analogies that I really appreciated that is imagining that each of us is like a giant mansion. You know, each of us have all of these different parts that represent these different rooms within a mansion, right? And of course, there's parts of us that are like the beautiful living room that are well decorated and it's clean and it's organized, and we want everyone to see those parts of us. But then we have these other parts of us that are the closets or these dark rooms, you know, that haven't been kept, and where these more messy parts of us exist and reside, that sometimes it's really terrifying to let people in. And I think that one of the greatest gifts of doing this work, the shadow work, and going and reclaiming those parts of us, which really at the end of the day are just like wounded, broken little children, when we can bring and love those parts and feel safe in that, then all of a sudden we're not afraid of bringing those that we love into those parts of us. And one of the things I just really want to celebrate about Mayah Rose and being in a relationship with her is like she has like helped me create this space of safety within myself where she's welcome to see all of me and all of who I am.
I love all of who you are, Gerald. And so the first key in being able to create unconditional love in your relationships is to create unconditional love for yourself. So make a list of the things that you've been afraid to show to your partner, the things that you've been afraid to reveal to the people that you're dating or that you're in relationship with, and discover what you can do to love those parts of yourself. So I know you went through this process after your divorce or right around the time of your divorce. So what did that look like to you to go and really uncover all these parts of you that you've been hiding?
For me, it really looked at like a lot of deep contemplation, a lot of deep like moments of introspection and connection with self. And
so did you just like make a list of all the things that you didn't love
it
about
wasn't
yourself?
a list so much as me just like taking time to meditate and figure out, okay, what are those parts of me that I feel ashamed of? What are those parts that I feel guilty about? What are those parts that I feel like I'm afraid to share? And I would just go and sit with that, and I would just explore it and see if I could find out like what the root of that really was.
All right, so when it comes to unconditional love, being able to recognize the parts of you that you haven't loved and working to be able to love those parts so that you aren't afraid to bring those into your partnership, so you don't feel like you have to hide those, is so powerful and so key to creating unconditional love. And what this does as well is it helps you to feel whole and complete, so you aren't coming into the relationship with codependent tendencies or habits or feelings like you need somebody else to complete you or tell you that you're okay or love you. And there may be people that don't accept these parts of you, but because you love those parts of you, that's okay, and you know that that's not the right relationship or partnership for you if they don't accept those parts. So one thing that we'll leave you with, this is a fun game that Gerald and I play, and I think this is something that creates even deeper intimacy in our relationship and helps us realize if we're trying to hide anything or if we're feeling ashamed of something. And that is, we'll ask each other often 2 questions. Number 1, what is one thing you want me to know about you? And this is just exploring, what does my partner not know about me? What's something that I can share with them or celebrate? It could be something that happened recently, or it could be something that happened a long time ago. And then number 2 is, what is one thing that you don't want me to know about you? Is there anything that you're afraid to share or tell me? And when you're in a safe and intimate partnership and relationship full of unconditional love, checking in with those parts of you and then sharing those in a safe and loving way can foster even more unconditional love and even more intimacy for yourself and for your partner.
The journey of unconditional love is a journey, and it just takes moment by moment, just listening and honoring and like treating yourself with kindness and care and respect, and doing the same with a partner, right? It's not something that just instantly happens and sticks forever, but it's something that we cultivate, Love is something to be cultivated and nurtured, and when you find those parts of you that you think are unlovable, just get excited and just go love them even more. So hopefully this is helpful, and hopefully on your journey to creating an epic relationship, you remember this key of unconditional love as a practice. And until we talk again, just remember, this is your life. Make it legendary.